Hey everyone, it's the Hero, and today we're not talking about the best cards in Magic. Nah, we're flipping the script. These are the cards that make game night feel like a punishment. Cards that turn joy into salt, smiles into sighs, and friendship into, well, polite silence. Let's talk about the least fun cards to play in Magic, the Gathering. Cards that don't just win, they ruin. Let's go. Let's start with what I like to call the fun police. The cards that don't win the game fast, they just make sure nobody ever has a good time. It starts with Stasis. Imagine a world where no one gets to untap anything. No mana, no creatures, no hope. You're just locked in, watching paint dry. And if Stasis wasn't enough, here comes Winter Orb, another classic torture device that says, hey, you get to untap one land. Choose wisely, peasant. Then we have Static Orb, which is like Winter Orb's weird cousin who decided untapping 2 permanents is totally fair. You know, because that somehow fixes everything. But wait, we're just getting started. Enter Smokestack, the actual embodiment of the slow burn. Every turn you lose something, a land, a creature, your will to live. If you're not playing a deck that benefits from that pain, good luck. And to top it all off, there's Trinisphere, a card that looks innocent until your 1 mana spells suddenly cost 3. Great. Now casting Lightning Bolt feels like taking out a loan. These cards don't just slow the game down, they drag it out, choke your mana, and make sure everyone's looking at the clock wondering how they got stuck in Magic Purgatory. Next up, we've got the Mind Games and Manipulators. These are the cards that don't just ruin your board state, they ruin your spirit. Let's kick it off with Mindslaver. It doesn't just mess with your game, it steals your soul. Your opponent literally takes your turn. It's like watching someone else wreck your house with your own hands. And all you can do is sit there and cry inside. Then you've got Teferi, Time Raveler, a planeswalker who doesn't like it when people play at instant speed. He basically turns your deck into a sad little sorcery machine. Combine that with Narset, Parter of Veils, and now you can't even draw more than 1 card per turn. Which is cute, because drawing cards is like one of the fun parts of Magic, but it gets worse. Much worse. Enter Hullbreacher, aka I'll be taking that. Opponent casts a wheel? Cool. You draw nothing and they get a pile of treasures. Or how about Notion Thief? That card takes your cards and doesn't even say thank you, just rude. And then there's Leovold, Emissary of Tress, a card so oppressive it got banned. He said, you can't draw, you can't target, you can't play Magic. Playing against Leovold felt less like a game and more like detention. These cards don't end the game quickly. They just make sure you don't get to play it. And we enter the combo crimes and chaos department. These cards don't just make the game unfun. They make it weird, confusing, or outright ridiculous. Take Possibility Storm for example. You try to cast a removal spell and poof, now you're casting a random tree folk. Every turn feels like a game of Russian roulette with your own deck. Then there's Knowledge Pool, which is even worse. You cast something and it gets sucked into the magical vortex, and you just have to grab whatever's floating. It's like trying to eat dinner, but someone keeps switching your plate mid-bite. Let's talk about Sensei's Divining Top. This card alone isn't evil, but the time it takes to use it might make you evil. You've got people tanking their turn for 3 full minutes, because they might be able to fix their top 3 cards just right. And if someone combines it with Counterbalance, go ahead and schedule dinner. You're not getting another turn anytime soon. Oh, and then there's the new hotness, Nadu, Winged Wisdom. It turns your board into a calculator. Someone targets a creature and suddenly you're scrying, drawing, blinking, bouncing, and milling. You ask what just happened and they say, oh, that was just trigger 1. And of course, Rhystic Study, the all-star of passive aggression. Nothing quite like hearing, are you going to pay the 1? Every single turn until you snap. These cards don't kill the table. They confuse, overwhelm, or slowly drain the joy out of the room while comboing off in 12 dimensions. Great for the pilot, brutal for everyone else. Now we've reached the final chapter of Pain, Hard Stops, and Unsolicited Control. These are the cards that don't just win the game or stall it. They slam the brakes on the entire table and say, no, you're done. Let's start with Armageddon. Why? Who hurt you? This card literally says, destroy all lands. That's not strategy. That's a war crime. Nothing like finally getting to 6 mana, just to have it all wiped out in one petty blast. And here's the kicker. The person who cast it usually doesn't have a clear plan after. They just want everyone else to suffer equally. And speaking of making everyone suffer, expropriate. Ugh, if this card resolves, they take your stuff. They take your turns. They take your will to go on. It's the Magic version of someone skipping the line and taking your lunch and your bus ride home. Then there's Iona, Shield of Imaria, a card that should have been subtitled Monocolor Decks Beware. She picks a color and poof, no more spells of that type. Imagine being a mono red player and watching her name red. You don't scoop, you just sit silently, questioning your life choices. Sundering Titan is another one. He walks in, blows up everyone's lands, and then does it again when he leaves. What did we do to deserve this? Who asked for this metallic jerk to show up and ruin mana bases across the multiverse? Now let's talk about the counterspell cousins, Mental Misstep and Daze. These two are the worst kind of gotchas. Mental Misstep is like that kid who says no to every game you suggest for free. You play a Sol Ring? Misstep. One drop dork? Misstep. Daze isn't much better. You think they're tapped out? Surprise! They bounce a land and counter your dreams. These are the cards that don't just stop your turn. They stop the table, the vibe, the momentum, everything. They don't say, I'm trying to win. They say, I'm trying to ruin your day. Look, Magic is a game of strategy, creativity, and salt. These cards didn't just win games, they won wars of attrition. So before you sleeve any of these up, ask yourself one thing. Am I trying to win or am I trying to be remembered? For all the wrong reasons. Thanks for watching. If you've been traumatized by any of these cards, drop a comment below and tell us your horror story. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell or someone's gonna cast Stasis on your next game night.